Welcome to the show, everybody. Joseph Robert, that fantasy football counselor. Today we're talking about Chris Carson and his fantasy football impact for 2020, his outlook, everything you need to know, and if you should draft Chris Carson for fantasy football 2020. I'm doing this impact series so that you guys can get the competitive advantage that you can look at every single player broken down, their ADP, the depth chart, who else is there in that committee, everything you need to know so you guys can make a better educated decision on if you should draft that particular player. Today we're talking about Seattle Seahawks Chris Carson. I'm going to dive really into him here and give you guys my verdict at the end. At the end of every video, I give you the verdict on if I would actually draft a player for Fantasy Football 2020. So it's a big video here for you, and I try to keep them short. I try to keep them up to 10, 12 minutes. Short, bite-sized information, packed with information though, right? Short segments, okay? So Chris Carson, let's discuss it. Before I get into that, guys, make sure you guys head on over to thefantasyfootballcouch.com. Get the 16-round draft solution. This is the game changer. I assure you, you guys will crush your leagues, guys. I break it down, sleepers, breakouts, everything you need. Scrap the draft kits and cheat sheets. This video training is the game changer. There's a link here below if you are on YouTube. Now, if you're in the car, head on over to thefantasyfootballcouch.com. And very important, guys, I appreciate it. Please leave a thumbs up. I greatly appreciate it. It means the world to me, okay? All right, and your questions below. I'll try to get to as many fantasy football questions. Let's talk about Chris Carson here. Now, he is currently sitting 18th amongst running backs in the consensus rankings, which makes him around, fourth round pick. I just did a mock draft yesterday. He's coming off in the fourth round. Now, that's pretty good value considering this is a guy that last year finished 12th in PPR amongst running backs. He got a ton of volume, 278 attempts, 1,230 yards, 4.4 yards per carry, 7 touchdowns, and receiving 47 targets for 37 receptions, 266 receiving yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns. 12th, guys, in PPR last year. Again, not bad. But every year, guys, we see things change. One concern, and it's the same kind of knock I have towards Dalvin Cook, is that Chris Carson hasn't finished an entire season. That, to me, now, if you put everything aside, the attempts, the talent, he's obviously very talented, 5'11", 220, going into his fourth season. He's still young. He's 25 years old. The talent is there. I'm not going to knock him on talent. I love Chris Carson, okay? Talent-wise. The problem comes is the injuries here. 4 games in 2017, 14 games in 2018, and 15 games. He hasn't finished a full season. I know he's 1 game short here or there. It doesn't matter to me. I want to see a full season finish, especially if it's a guy that I'm considering, probably in this case, my RB2, RB3. I'm very selective, guys, with my running backs. So that's kind of the first thing, right? You got to look at durability, right? The Cuddy system. Consistency, upside, durability, depth, and youth. So consistent, not so consistent because he's been injured, right? Upside, sure. He's on Seattle. There's some upside. Durability, not so durable. Depth chart, let's talk about it. Youth is there. Why? Cuddy, youth is there. When you look at the Y in the Cuddy. But the depth chart, that's the problem. Yes, he's the highest guy in the depth chart, but here's the problem. I'm going to talk about it. The problem is Carlos Hyde. He bothers me. Now, Carlos Hyde sucks, but the problem here is Carlos Hyde is good enough to be a thorn in the side of Chris Carson. And I'm looking at Carlos Hyde's numbers. He had over 1,000 yards, guys. 1,000 yards rushing with the Texans. Now he's going to be on the Seahawks. This is bothering me. This is bothering me significantly. This is a thorn in my side. If you believe in Carson, which obviously you don't, why would you bring in Carlos Hyde? This is a problem to me. So if you're looking at the depth chart, yes, Carson is there, but Carlos Hyde's going to be a thorn in the side. That is going to bother me, and that is probably one of the reasons I'm probably going to stay away from Chris Carson. So again, Carlos Hyde is kind of a workhorse on his own. That's why I love David Johnson so much, is because Carlos Hyde is not there. And again, that's going to pose a big problem for me if I'm considering drafting a guy like Chris Carson. Now, let's go back to last year here real quickly. I'm going to pull up the numbers. Now, last year, Chris Carson had 278 attempts compared to Rashad Penny, who was second with 65 attempts, CJ Prosise. Penny obviously is dealing with his injuries. He's always banged up. So they brought in Hyde to kind of back up if Penny doesn't come through, this and that. The problem is Hyde is a little better than Penny, and they're going to integrate him. So this is the problem that I'm having if I'm considering Chris Carson. I got to deal with a thorn that is Carlos Hyde. So guys, I'm going to make this very short, very sweet, very simple. I don't want to drag this out, but I want to talk to you guys about the robust RB strategy. I talk about this in all my videos. I just did a mock draft. If you're on YouTube, check it out here. This was dated, I think, June 3rd. I think, when did I do the video? It was, June 5th, right? So check it out. June 5th, I did a mock draft with wide receivers, okay? Zero RB is what I tried. And in this mock draft, it didn't work out. It just didn't work out. I tried it. I think I went like Julio, and then I went Galladay, and I went Ridley, ironically, to Falcons. Long story short, I tried to go with the robust wide receiver strategy. Didn't work. So if you do get Carson, and I know a lot of people, if you're a Seattle fan, you're going to want to get Carson, because I know a lot of people are team biased. You got to go part of a robust RB strategy, because what happens is, if you do not get a running back, especially those running backs from the minimal committees early on, if we're talking fantasy football draft strategy, you're going to end up with a Carlos Hyde. You're going to end up with a Jordan Howard, a Phillip Lindsay as your RB1, RB2, and it's not going to look pretty, okay? You don't want that. So I ended up in this particular mock draft. If you go check it out, Todd Gurley was my RB1. I ended up somehow getting him, I think, in the 4th round, which was crazy at the beginning of the 4th round, because I ended up picking 9th. And then I ended up coming back, and I think I got, who was it? I can't remember. Go check the mock draft, who my second running back was. I think it was like Cam Akers or something like that. Very risky. I think Akers has a huge ceiling, but you don't want that. So if you do get Carson, he could be your RB3 or 4 as part of a robust RB strategy. I see him coming off as early as 3, as late as 5, depending on how many people are in your league. Okay, so let's talk about verdicts here. What am I doing? Very simple. I'm going to stay away from Chris Carson. Again, I love the talent. We talked about this. We looked at the numbers. I love the attempts, because that's one thing I do look at, guys. When I look at any running back, I look at attempts. And when I look at him, 278 attempts. That's a sweet deal. That tells me a couple things. Number one, he can handle the workload as a running back. And number two, the Seattle Seahawks believe in him. He was 5th in attempts, okay? And when you look at rushing yards, he was 5th in rushing yards. But I'm still bothered. I can't get over Carlos Hyde being there. And some people will still say, Joe, he's there for backup. He's there for depth. You know, they need him for depth. I understand that. But when I look at any running back, the gap between this guy and this guy has to be big. And trust me, Carson's a lot better than Hyde, but the durability, that's when it kind of brings it and levels these guys off. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, my hands are pretty close to each other, right? When you look at David Johnson, his backup, there's a big gap. When you look at Saquon Barkley and his backup, Dion Lewis, there's a big gap, right? When you look at Zeke Elliott and Pollard, there's a pretty big gap, but Pollard is showing some flashes. Pollard is concerning me a little bit, because the guy can catch the ball in the backfield. Now, I heard it on the news today. It's bothering me with Derrick Henry. This is going off on a tangent here. That Arthur Smith, the offensive coordinator for the Tennessee Titans, is saying that Derrick Henry is going to possibly be part of a committee. They want to work the new guy Evans, Darrington Evans. They want to work him now. That's a problem, because, you know, Henry led in attempts with 303. And if they pull that back, that could be an issue. But there's a huge gap between Evans and Henry. Henry's far superior. He's going to get more volume. But when you look at the comparison of Carson and Hyde, it's enough to make me think, okay, am I going to be considering Carlos Hyde later, or am I going to get Chris Carson early? How about this? Just stay away from the entire situation. Listen, I got a pre-workout here. If you guys have been watching me on social, I'm going to take a sip here. I've been doing a lot of bike riding, so I need a drink here. I need a pre-workout. Listen, I'm wired here. I'm stressed out about this. Chris Carson, you're going to deal with risk. And whenever you draft any player, you want to minimize risk and maximize some certainty. Now, when you have a wild card guy like a Cam Akers, high ceiling guy, high upside, you know, you're going to take some risks. That's okay, but make sure it's part of a robust RB strategy. Guys, that's a secret. You always have a backup plan for a backup plan. That's what I talk about 16-round draft solution. A backup plan for a backup plan. Cover yourself. Verdict, stay away from Chris Carson. It's too much of a risk. Hyde's going to be a thorn in the side, I think. And again, I could be wrong. Carlos Hyde, Chris Carson could still finish top 10. And Carlos Hyde could just be a backup there, right? But I'm not taking the risk. I'm going to stay away and minimize the risk there. All right, guys. Also, leave your questions below. I want to get to as many questions as I can. Are you drafting Chris Carson? Do you think Carlos Hyde is going to be good enough to be a thorn? Because that to me, it bothers me. So be cautious about that. I'm personally staying away. Leave your questions below. And I'm trying to get to as many people as I possibly can. Follow the #1 Instagram page at Fantasy Football Counselor, guys. absolutely crushing it out there, giving you guys a ton of content. You're going to absolutely love it there. And of course, smash the thumbs up and get the 16-round draft solution. See, guys, I always give you guys a little bit of homework to take home with you, because it's important that you guys interact, okay? It's very, very important. And of course, I've also linked below the Impact series. If you're here on YouTube, you can watch all the other videos. I'm working through the running backs, going to get to the wide receivers, because it gets important to really dive in statistically in that situation with that running back, wide receiver, whatever positional player you're looking at, even quarterbacks, and seeing if they're going to be a top 10 finish. Because what goes up must come down, and things vary every single year. It's not just copy and paste rankings here with the Fantasy Football Counselor podcast, okay? We go year round. Smash thumbs up, and of course, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Guys, 2020 Fantasy Football will be here before we know it. I'm super excited, guys. Stay glued to the channel, and we will talk soon. Thank you.